All right, and welcome back to the hashtag IBMI Everywhere show. Thanks so much, Alex Woodie of IT Jungle, for joining us today.
Hey, Josh, great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you for all of the work you do for IBMI. I literally, you're the only publication I read at this point, so I really appreciate all that you do for the IBMI community. One of the major things I've always wondered, as I see a lot of the other stuff you do online, and you're not only limited to IBMI. So what draws you to IBMI? When did it get started? Maybe a little background for the folks out there, just to learn a little bit about you and what makes IBMI so special to you.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Well, I started in this business back in 1999 at AS400 Technology Showcase. I was hired there by our current publisher, Jenny Thomas, and yeah, I didn't know what an AS400 was back then, right? I knew I was familiar with computers, as not everybody was in 1999, but I didn't know what this thing was, and so I had a very quick education in it, and what the S400 was, what its role was, and I was, I guess, extremely impressed, right, to learn about this server that is behind so much of the world, right? Right? I came into the job thinking, okay, this is a business computer. It's going to be some type of technical or scientific computing. It's like, nope, this is business stuff. It's making the business run efficiently, and it does it very well. It does it so well that you don't even know that it's there, right? And that's why your IBMI Everywhere campaign, I think, is so great, that it just reminds people how prevalent the system is and the important role it plays just in keeping business humming, right? I mean, we all take it for granted, how great the American Western economies are, right? I mean, all over the world. IBMI AS400 is just one of those silent engines behind the scenes cranking away. So I got started back in 1999, and I've just kind of stuck with it ever since. Mid-range computing kind of imploded back in 2001, right before 9/11, and me and my colleagues, Timothy Prickett Morgan and Jenny Thomas, we just kind of regrouped around this IT Jungle online publication, and we've just kind of been at it ever since.
Well, thank you for that. And this question for you is that it sounds like you were involved in writing before that as well. And what were you doing before IBMI? Is there a time before IBMI?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, right before it, I was a stringer for a local newspaper, and I had worked at another publication, Insurance Journal. I got my degree in journalism back in 1997, and took a job at a newspaper in Northern California, the Paradise Post. And that was a great education. I loved writing. I loved learning about the world. But I also kind of had a I guess more of a technical background,
Hmm.
more math and science than I guess your typical journalist. I was an aerospace engineering major in college. That's what I thought I wanted to do in college, was go work for one of the defense contractors and build airplanes and spaceships. But I didn't really like the math. I got into
Join the
Cal
club.
2 and just like that, it's not for me. I was much better at writing. It just came naturally for me. So I just decided to switch to journalism and get my degree and go out into the world. So that's kind of how I ended up. It was a nice mixture of both worlds, technical stuff and writing. So I guess I feel lucky that I found something that I enjoy and that I'm good at too.
Well, it's a really interesting background that you were a technical guy doing more of like building airplanes idea and then going over to writing about IBMI. And one of the things you mentioned before was like you got very involved in like 2001, 1999, 2001, and we're in 2025 now. And mentioning, looking at your posts on LinkedIn and the other things that you do out there, is that you have a lot of other knowledge outside of IBMI. And I think the focus is what draws you to IBMI aside from just like, I mean, obviously it's an amazing machine, and the thing that we talk a little bit about is that it's running the world, running the show behind the scenes, but it's also there's a lot of other technology out there. Why you
Yeah.
keep on writing about it? What draws you to it?
Yeah, I mean, well, it was writing at IT Jungle. It was a full-time job for a long time, but as we all know, the market has kind of been shrinking over the years. So I needed to diversify outside of IBMI, as a lot of people in this field have. I mean, it'd be great if I could just do it full time, if the ecosystem, I guess, was big enough. But I took a second job. I write about big data, advanced analytics, and AI at Big Data Wire, formerly Datanami.
Hmm.
So I also have my feet kind of in that world too, and it's been great because I had just a lot of exposure to the IT world, through the work at IT Jungle and covering IBM I mean, I covered pretty much every spectrum of the IT business. Everything from programming to systems monitoring, security, printing, emulators. I mean, ERP systems, business intelligence was always something that I was interested in, and I got a job doing that full time at Big Data Wire. That's a completely different world, right, than the IBMI world. I mean, it's computers, but it's not as focused so much on the day-to-day running of the systems. It's more like how do you exploit data to get a competitive advantage. So that's
Do,
completely different. But yeah.
do you see them like interacting with each other in your work? I mean, as they are different, as they are totally different. They are different sides of the spectrum and focuses, but at the end of the day, they are still computers.
Yeah.
And where do you see them overlapping?
Well, I mean, if you talk to Scott Forsty over at IBM, he would tell you, the IBM I makes a great data warehousing machine, right? Just a lot. Not many companies use it as a business intelligence server, right? It's mostly a transaction processing machine, which is, bar none, it's the best in the world at that, right?
Sure.
I mean, yeah, but there is overlap in terms of just all the data that you collect on the IBM I, putting it in the DB2 database. That's the stuff that you want to crunch in order to find insight. So there is some crossover there. It's just the sharp end of the stick for big data. You're not typically going to be running that on a power box on an IBM I server. That's typically these days those workloads are headed to the cloud, right? In a lot of cases, stuff like Redshift, BigQuery, Databricks, and Snowflake, what they're doing, just being able to amass huge amounts of data and then crunch it. That's a whole different ball game compared to what IBM I customers just really want to do, which is kind of run the day-to-day business, do it as efficiently, cleanly, and cheaply as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing about the cheaply. I mean, people don't realize the
Yeah.
the TCO of IBMI in general, and that's a big part of it. Another thing for you is, I mean, as talking about IT Jungle and your support of the vendors in the space and also just people in general, what would you say to help like guide you and maybe help the vendors themselves with IT Jungle and supporting them back?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, frankly, I would love it if there was more activity in the space, right? If there were more vendors kind of reaching out, saying, "Hey, we got this new product or an improved product running on IBM I. We want to let people know about it." That seems to kind of have fallen off over the last few years. I'm not quite sure what to do about that, frankly. It's, I guess, just kind of part and parcel of a shrinking market. But there's a group of vendors out there that they're still serving this market, and at IT Jungle we intend to be there to help them get the word out. As long as they're going to do it, and be in the business. Hopefully, you know we're in the business of running stories, getting news out, and running advertisements also for the vendors.
Yeah, of course. And that's really important. Maybe I know that of those big data videos, a lot of times you talk about the future. And
Yeah.
and normally you get to write about what you see from others about the future for IBMI. Maybe do you have an opinion about where you see IBMI going?
Um, sure. Yeah. I mean, if you had to try to look into the future for IBMI, I'd say it's probably. I mean, it's going to look a lot like the past, right? With some caveats. I mean, that's the great thing about the system is just its longevity. The backwards compatibility is legendary. Not always a great thing, but I think it's going to evolve. I think at some point we're going to see the rise of clouds a lot more. Just running, getting an IBMI dial tone on the cloud, so you don't have to manage the box. That's already happening to an
Hmm.
extent. I would love to hear more about the MSPs who are having the success with that. If they wanted to reach out to me at IT
Hint,
Jungle, I'd
hint.
love. Yeah, yeah. I'll put a little plug in there. MSPs. Contact me. That's a big thing. Um,
Why do you see that specifically? Just curious. Like that is a very specific thing you're seeing.
yeah.
Why do you see that as like a very important part?
Um, because of the potential cost concerns, right? The ability to cut the costs out of it, managing the box. I mean, it's already pretty efficient, but that's the way I think to squeeze more efficiency out of it. just running IBM I in the cloud. I think that's going to grow quite a bit in the future. I think it has to, right? I mean, people really don't want to run these boxes on-prem. I know there's always going to be exceptions to that, right? If they're in a regulated market, or a place in the world where they're just not served by the cloud very well. But at some point, I think you're going to have to move to the cloud.
I mean, the thing is,
There we go. There's my big bold prediction. Everything will move
your
to the
bold
cloud.
prediction, that is not so bold. I mean, I think that IBM wants to go that way as well. I mean, Power
Yeah,
VS and every cloud provider out there wants you to go their cloud.
sure.
And but I think to your point that there are going to be exceptions to every rule, and everyone wants to be and with their own data that they want to keep internally,
Yep.
and the security concerns of it, and also the cost of it. And it depends on your environment that what is really going to require. Um, so I think that sounds good. Do you see, and I think you've also spoken a lot about AI over in both the IT jungle as well as the data, your other job as well. And do you
Yep.
see those two colliding with each other? Like the
Yeah, I think they are. Obviously, IBM is putting together their Copilot. The technology is really interesting. At Big Data Wire, I've kind of been trying to pop those hype bubbles to an extent. I mean, the hype around AI got so big for a while, right? I mean, it was the biggest thing since the dot-com boom. And I remember living through the first dot-com boom and how a lot of those promises turned out to be fairy tales, right? And I kind of see a similar thing happening with AI, but at the same time, you have to look at what's going on. In some cases, you see these co-pilots starting to do really good work, right? I mean, you hear companies like AWS saying that they're replacing millions of man hours with their coding co-pilots. So I think it has the potential to be a disruptive technology. I don't think it's ever going to fully replace people, right? But it's going to make the existing folks that you have on your staff a lot more efficient, able to do a lot more work. And yeah, I think it's probably just a matter of time before it really has an impact on IBM I. I mean, there's already a few vendors kind of offering these types of tools. But yeah, I think I would probably give it a few more years, right? I mean, this typically IBM I is kind of so immune to the hype to a large extent. It's almost like we're doing a beta test of this new technology out in kind of the broader IT world. And once they kind of hammer out all the rough edges, it's going to be brought to IBM I. And I think IBM is doing a pretty good job of that. I can't wait to see what they're doing with their RPG coding copilot.
code
Stephen,
assist, whatever that thing's
yeah,
called. Yeah, it should
yeah,
be exciting.
yep. The technology is really interesting. At Big Data Wire, I've kind of been trying to pop those hype bubbles to an extent. I mean, the hype around AI got so big for a while, right? I mean, it was the biggest thing since the dot-com boom. And I remember living through the first dot-com boom and how a lot of those promises turned out to be fairy tales, right? And I kind of see a similar thing happening with AI, but at the same time, you have to look at what's going on. In some cases, you see these co-pilots starting to do really good work, right? I mean, you hear companies like AWS saying that they're replacing millions of man hours with their coding co-pilots. So I think it has the potential to be a disruptive technology. I don't think it's ever going to fully replace people, right? But it's going to make the existing folks that you have on your staff a lot more efficient, able to do a lot more work. And yeah, I think it's probably just a matter of time before it really has an impact on IBM I. I mean, there's already a few vendors kind of offering these types of tools. But yeah, I think I would probably give it a few more years, right? I mean, this typically IBM I is kind of so immune to the hype to a large extent. It's almost like we're doing a beta test of this new technology out in kind of the broader IT world. And once they kind of hammer out all the rough edges, it's going to be brought to IBM I. And I think IBM is doing a pretty good job of that. I can't wait to see what they're doing with their RPG coding copilot.
Code
Stephen,
assist, whatever that thing's
yeah,
called. Yeah, it should
yeah,
be exciting.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be really helpful for people. I think that especially with the workforce retiring or aging out as they call it, and being able to have the new youngins like myself
Right.
coming in and being able to code quickly and efficiently in RPG is going to be really, really big game changer for all these companies, and also help people stay on the IBMI as well. I think that a lot of times people are concerned, oh, we need to move off. Well, is the reason is because of what is the interface? I don't think people are the interface is really the reason why people are going to move. That's just part of the story. It's just mostly around, do they have the resources? So if you have the AI to help the resources get up to speed, it's a very different world. So anything else you want to share for the vendor world, or just for IT jungle plugs you want to share?
Well, I would just say, the IBMI software vendors out there, if even if what you think you're doing is not like the biggest news in the world, just reach out to me. We want to hear what you're doing. We want to get information, news out in front of the IBMI ecosystem. It's gotten tough the last few years. That seems like the news is kind of dried up a bit, but it doesn't have to be the biggest announcement in the world, right? Just let us know what you're doing, what you're up to. I think people out there will find it interesting and useful, right? If you just pick up the phone, send an email, send a note. You can go to itjungle.com and click on the contact button and send me and Tim an email. We'd be glad to hear what you're doing.
No, that's perfect. I think that people need to know about everything that's going on, and people appreciate the news that
Yep.
you're sharing. And vendors out there, you know where to find Alex. So thanks so much, Alex. Really appreciate your time. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you at the next Common Conference. Always nice to see you. And
Yep.
and if anyone wants to join on this podcast, and feel free to share your stories or your IBMI experience, feel free to reach out to me. You know where to find me. My name is Josh Mander, and talk to you all soon. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks.